From time to time, you will be faced with a giant valley that you need to jump, that you need to take the leap on, and you need to have that ability to do so. We have to embrace the difficulty and the challenges that come with those difficult decisions, stack those incremental growth steps, because you want to actually give yourself the capacity to make the big decisions when you need to. Conviction is the unwavering belief in something. It's an unwavering belief because you have the faith that it is possible in this world. Hey everyone, welcome to Flow Over Fear. I am Adam Hill. Thank you so much for being here today. On this show, I talk a lot about overcoming like your day-to-day fears, like overcoming uncertainty, overcoming overwhelm or self-doubt. Those are the big three that I like to really share about on this show. And I talk about that in the concept of our day-to-day fears, things that feel like they're obstacles in the way of our true potential when we're pursuing something. And, when I talk about that, I talk about giving 80% consistently instead of 110% so that we can give ourselves the capacity to grow, to expand our energy, to expand our comfort zones. And I also talk about how to nudge past your comfort zone 5% at a time, embracing those little 5% incremental growth kind of things and not making giant leaps toward your goal or past your comfort zone. But I want to talk today about the idea that, a lot of times, we can approach our day-to-day or approach achieving our goals in that iterative or incremental growth kind of process. And we can't approach those goals by slowing down and going at 80%. Most of the time that can be the case, and it's good to practice that. But there are occasions where there's no choice but to take a giant leap. Am I right? Like sometimes on the path to our dreams or our goals or just faced with day-to-day challenges, sometimes big things or big events are thrown at us. Big leaps are demanded of us in order to make progress. And I want to talk about that today because that's a very, very specific and, hopefully pretty rare type of situation that you might find yourself into. And it's easy to say like, just take incremental steps, just 5% past your comfort zone at a time. But when you're faced with a giant crevasse between you and your goal, and there's no choice but to leap or retreat, that demands some deeper introspection and thinking and consideration of what you want to do there. Think about it in this context. If you're having trouble conceptualizing what I'm getting to here, it could be the idea that you're pursuing a new venture that requires you at this point in time to make a big decision like quitting your job. Maybe you need to quit your job to pursue this venture even more that you're leaning into, and your choices are one or the other. Maybe it's a decision about a relationship where it's the time where you have to pull the trigger on like, this is it. There's no more choices here. We need to go forward or retreat. And oftentimes that's what we're faced with in the face of fear. We have the option to move forward through it, beyond it, either with small steps or a giant leap, or we have the option to retreat. One of the problems that I faced early in life was that for the first 3 decades of my life, I tended to retreat more often than I tended to move forward. And that imprinted in me because I retreated so often from things that I should pursue, even the smaller things. It imprinted these limiting beliefs in my mind that served as a foundation for saying no to more things in my life, and my world got smaller. Now, that doesn't mean that retreating isn't always the wrong decision. Sometimes it is good to, make that decision to not go into that fear because that there's a reason that fear exists. Sometimes it is signaling danger. So determining when that fear is actually telling you that you're in danger is probably a good skill to develop. And that's what I want to really get into today is sometimes the decisions that we have to make in life are, big decisions, are pivotal moments, changes that happen that reshape the trajectory of our lives, and they should be scary and they should be brought about with a lot of thought. So most of the time in this show, we talk about like the day-to-day fears, the things that aren't going to, that that don't necessarily have any life or death consequences, but still impact us, still lead to that sense of anxiety, or lead to that sense that like, oh, we've got too much on our plate. So we can ultimately step back and actually look at it from a bigger perspective, or from a greater perspective, and say, well, I can actually approach this in a different way, in a smaller way, and like, maybe slow it down or go 5% beyond my comfort zone. But in these big cases, like these, world shifting situations, like, am I going to leave my job? Am I going to start this new career and really take my family into it? Am I going to, move in this direction, in a new direction in this relationship? Or am I going to move my family to Tahiti and live off coconuts for the rest of my life? That is a viable option. There shouldn't be any fear related to that one, by the way. I mean, just do that. I mean, that sounds like an amazing life. But the problem is that when, while that stacking of 5% goals over time is great and leading to your comfort zone, from time to time, you will be faced with a giant valley that you need to jump, that you need to take the leap on, and you need to have that ability to do so. So I want to talk about some ways in which we can approach those big gaps that we have, those monumental cloudy, or those voids that we face, that when we can actually approach those voids and say, I am going to be moving in the direction, regardless of how big this void is, or what I can't see, or the uncertainty, the overwhelms, the self-doubts, that we can approach that giant leap in the right way with the right kind of support. And it's those situations that we don't want to take lightly, that we don't want to just, go in and say, hey, I'm going to do this just because my heart's calling me to do it. It may be calling you to do it, but there's deeper introspection you're going to want to go into there, and a deeper dialogue with yourself that you're going to want to investigate. So, I've been playing a game recently. I know I'm getting super vulnerable here, guys. I've been playing video games lately, and I've been playing a very popular game called Baldur's Gate. And if you haven't played it, it's incredibly amazing. This is not an advertisement, by the way. I'm not getting paid by whatever company is made Baldur's Gate. But if you haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, it's a big world game. It's basically around the themes of Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, nerd alert. I am a nerd. I play Dungeons and Dragons, both with a group of other nerds and by myself. So yeah, judge me all you want. I don't care. But this game is fun. It's a blast. But there are points in this game where, because it is such a dynamic and such a big world game, there are points in this game that you have to make a decision that changes the entire trajectory of your game, of where the game's going to take you. Like, you can choose to just decide to pickpocket a major character, right? And end that relationship, and they will never be an ally. It cuts off an entire theme of the game to you when you do that. And those decisions are really anxiety inducing, because there's like, when you're presented with a question from one of these non-player characters and they're saying, well, are you going to join me or not? It causes a lot of anxiety because you're just like, oh my gosh, this decision that I'm going to make is going to change the trajectory of this game. And yes, that's just a game. But in the game of life, we have those same choices. And I've been presented with those choices many times. When I look back on my days as in Ironman triathlon, yes, for the training purposes, I could slow down and give 80%, and that ultimately helped me to build the capacity to grow. And I could expand my comfort zone 5% at a time, so that I was able to stack those little 5% wins and approach my goal. But there was also a time where I would have to make that big decision to start the race, to jump in the water with hundreds of other athletes, all anonymously punching and kicking one another, and swim into the open ocean where tsunamis come from and sharks live. And that's a big decision that requires a little bit more than just giving 5% or slowing down. We have to prepare ourselves for it. There are a few steps that you can take that I want to talk about in terms of some tools that you can use to approach those big decisions. And I don't want to take these lightly at all and just say that go through these simple steps and you'll be able to make those big decisions, no problem. No, they're going to be very, very difficult to make. They are. And that's part of life. It's part of life that we have to accept, that things are going to be difficult. Hey everyone, I interrupt this program to introduce you to a powerful tool that will help you gain clarity on your vision and accelerate your growth and achievement. If you're listening to this show, it is likely that you have an exciting vision for your life. But the problem is that we often get caught up in the day-to-day. We get distracted, we face uncertainty, overwhelm, and self-doubt. And as a result, the gap between where you are and where you want to be seems insurmountable. And that's why I created a framework for how you can turn your vision into strategic, disciplined action that will accelerate your results in the next 90 days. I call it the Vision Reflection Retreat. It is a 2-day solo excursion designed to reignite passion and adventure into your busy life and realign your focus toward your why. This is the very same framework that I use every 90 days to reflect on my own life and my vision and set my goals for the next quarter. And it has been a game changer. And the good news is that I'm giving away this Vision Reflection Retreat guidebook for free when you sign up for my newsletter. Simply go to flowoverfear.com/retreat and download your free guide and enjoy the journey. In a lot of ways, we have to embrace the difficulty and the challenges that come with those difficult decisions, because the way that we decide and when we get the conviction and the support around those decisions, we can go to the other side and find ourselves more fulfilled regardless of the outcome. When we don't attach ourselves to an outcome, but we actually spend our time enjoying the journey and preparing ourselves for the journey. And part of the reason why most in every other experience you want to focus on that 80%, 5% rule. Give 80% effort, slow down, give 5% beyond your comfort zone, just stack those incremental growth steps, is because you want to actually give yourself the capacity to make the big decisions when you need to give your all, to give everything about yourself when those big decisions matter, or when those big choices or when those big events happen, that you can have the courage to leap when you need to. That's why you want to do it. That's one of the reasons why I so hate the advice that we need to give everything that we've got all the time in order to be successful. Because if you're giving everything you've got all the time in order to be successful, 110% all the time to the point of burnout and beyond all the time, what happens when you hit that valley that you need to leap across, that you need to give everything you've got on? You have nothing left. That's why the first part of that, first part of preparation for those giant leaps that you might need to make, or those big decision points, is to give yourself the capacity during the rest of your life to make those decisions. Give yourself the clarity and the space. Slow it down in the rest of your life so that you can ultimately make those big leaps when you need to. And there are there are a few things that I think that you need in situations where you need to take that big leap. And the first one is community. Community is so vital to everything from emotional healing to personal growth and development to, helping through these big, life-changing, world-changing decisions that you might need to make in a moment. On the journey to building a business, say, you may come to a point where your business is big enough that now you have the freedom to leave your job, but you have that security, that ability you may not know yet, and it's still going to be a big decision to make the leap. And in those moments, community matters. The community of people who have been through it. Find the people who have taken the leap. Find the people who have stayed in their job, or find the people who have had to cross that bridge or move into that void ahead of you, so that you can know, like, is it the right decision for me? Build the evidence for it. Build build some of that mentorship. Mentorship is hugely powerful in here because that'll guide you. A lot of times when we're immersed in the midst of these challenges, our our minds become jumbled. We may have blind spots. We may not be able to see the forest through the trees. And when we can't do that, we often become stuck because we don't have the clarity, we don't have the conviction to find to make that decision. So community helps with that because they can give us an additional perspective. This could be a therapist, and it should be a something of a therapist in many regards. It could be a community of like-minded individuals in a mastermind. It could be your spiritual group, your church or whatever, or a group of friends. But the important elements of that community are that they have these two elements: mentorship and people working toward a common goal. So if it is, say, starting a business and taking the leap from your job and the timing of that, maybe it's a mastermind of other people, of other guys that or girls that have, or women who have gone through that process. And that's what it takes with the community. So find that community of like-minded people to help give you that confidence, and that community will also help you give you that second piece, which you need in order to know to take that leap, to go forward or to retreat. And that is conviction. Do you have conviction to take that massive leap now? Is the timing right for it? Is it the right step for you? But do you have that conviction? Conviction is the unwavering belief in something. It's an unwavering belief because you have the faith that it is possible in this world, and it is unwavering. It's just you inherently believe it. You've built that into yourself, and it's something that you can create through the story that you tell yourself. So if you create a story, you create meaning behind that story, and that meaning leads to a belief, and that belief can become unwavering if you imprint that story into your psyche, into your soul. And then that you add to that the courage to actually move in the direction of that unwavering belief. Then you add to that points of reference that you have for success, for ways that you've succeeded or persevered through personal challenge in the past. Those three elements, unwavering belief plus courage plus points of reference, that all creates conviction. When you have that conviction, you can decide that now is the time to make that decision, to take that leap, to move to Tahiti and live off coconuts. That's the time you can find that conviction. So do you have the conviction to find it? And then the final piece that I want to share today a little bit that I would encourage you to have before, making that life-changing decision, that life-changing decision, is momentum. Momentum is important because, if you're going to jump into anything, just like that conviction piece says, having those points of reference for success, having the evidence that you can actually move in that direction with success, and that's something that does light you up, something that you want, that you do desire, and that will fill you up as you go down that journey of challenge and frustration and difficulty or whatever, that you have that you have momentum in that direction. Now, momentum in this case means that you've kind of beta tested this a bit. You've started stacking some of those 5% wins. You've built the capacity. You've started moving in the direction. Like if it's starting a new business or you're starting to coach people, that you've maybe built some a client list, or you've started generating a little bit of revenue. You're starting to build this evidence that this can be a success going forward. Stacking those 5% wins in that direction is a way to build that. But there's only so long that you could stack those 5% wins on top of each other before you have to make a big decision. And you have to make a big decision to burn the boats, or to take your life in a different direction, or to fully commit to that thing and focus on it. And that's the thing. It is very, it's prudent that if you're going to, say, move in the direction of a new career or a new business, that you start to work on that prospect, before you leave before you take that leap. So you work on that, business, you start to build it up to a point where I just can't, keep building this unless I, you know, put all my chips in. That's where the decision point comes in, and that's where you have to give your all. But making sure you build that momentum is a piece of that puzzle to making that decision. And I will say that what I'm describing here, these are just simple tools that you can use to help you along that path. But they're not going to give you the answers. They're not. They're going to give you evidence and points of reference and ideas. But it is ultimately up to you, and it is a decision to take the leap, to jump past the crevasse, to leap, to step into that void of unknown that is way beyond your comfort zone. It's your decision to do that. And you have to embrace the courage to do it if you decide to do it. And you have to be all in. That's where community matters, where conviction matters, and building some momentum matters. So I'd ask you, if that resonates with you, if you're working through something right now, or you've reached one of those inflection points, where are you embracing that community? Are you finding the conviction to move in a direction, to move forward or retreat? Or are you finding that momentum? And is there anything else? I'd love to hear from you if there's anything else that may be helping you through one of those big life decisions. We all go through them, and we all face that point where we have to have the capacity to move forward, or we have to make a big decision. Where is that for you? And what are the tools that you find have helped you through those decisions? I'd love to hear from you and share some of those ideas on the show. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope this helped, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me today on Flow Over Fear. If you are liking this show, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. That way you'll be first to know when I drop a new episode, including interviews or trainings or dad jokes. That's right, dad jokes. Add a little levity to your life. And if you liked this episode in particular, and you think somebody can get something from it, please share it with a friend. And that way we'll spread the message together. Thanks again for joining me today. We'll see you next time.